Iranian journalist and commentator Negar Mortazavi spoke to me earlier, right after President Trump's address. She says he's been inconsistent on Iran.
He seems to want to have a meeting with President Rouhani, but at the same time say that he requested it. He seems to want to have this kind of diplomatic approach, or at least the presentation of a diplomatic person, but then at the same time have a maximum pressure campaign against Iran with his very hardline aides that have this kind of hawkish view. So I don't think it's been consistent, and that's what's made the Iranians really doubt what they call the sincerity of the U.S. side, although it seems clear that the U.S. delegation, or at least President Trump, wants to meet President Rouhani, but the Iranians have denied that request, and they're clearly saying that the tone of the president needs to change.
It almost seemed to me, I want to get your thoughts on this, that he kind of scratched out the DPRK from last year and just inserted Iran, because the fiery rhetoric was still there. It was just aimed at a different country.
Exactly, the little rocket man, and now he's an absolutely nice person. It seems like it's coming from the same playbook, but the Iranian political structure and the DPRK is very different. The political cost for President Rouhani to have a one-on-one meeting with President Trump is very, very high. President Rouhani took one phone call from President Obama, and that already had a very high political cost for him. I don't think there's any way for him to meet with President Trump, at least at this moment, with this kind of rhetoric you hear on the world stage.
He's made this case for America first. He's making it again today. But a lot of people are saying, some analysts at least, some leaders in other countries are saying this is America alone, that it's kind of isolating the United States. Again, yesterday, an example of that, the European Union, China, and Russia in favor of a mechanism now that will allow them to continue trading with Iran in defiance of Trump's goals. Your thoughts on that?
Exactly. There was a ministerial level of the P5+1, what they call, which is now the world powers minus the United States with Iran. It's not just the Europeans, it's the Chinese, the Russians. They came out in strong support of the continuation of the Iran deal. They made a political statement. There was a press conference. It just seems like there's a clear face-off between U.S.'s allies and the other parties to the Iran deal and President Trump. And they even said that they deeply regret the United States' unilateral exit from the deal. It just seems like politically and also economically, considering the upcoming U.S. sanctions, there's going to be a lot of standoff between the two sides.
He'll be chairing the UN Security Council meeting. Nikki Haley says this is going to be the most watched ever, sort of like his inauguration. But I suspect she's probably right, because he's unpredictable, has to bring some chaos to the table. What can we expect, do you think?
It's true. And I mean, it's not very common that a U.S. president would chair a UN Security Council meeting. What's interesting is that President Trump wanted this to be centered on Iran, with the topic of Iran, which then, according to rules, would give Iran the opportunity to have a presence at the table. And then they took it back on the U.S. side, and they changed the topic to non-proliferation, which now is not clear if Iranians are going to send a delegation. But it just seems like from behind the scenes, what we hear is that the Europeans were ready to stand up to President Trump's opposition to the Iran deal, and that kind of meeting wouldn't be the presentation that Nikki Haley, the ambassador, and everybody around President Trump thought that he expected. So that's how the topic apparently has changed, and they don't want this to be only centered on Iran bashing, basically.